Welcome to Monster Monday. Anna and the Apocalypse. Yeah, a musical zombie film. So that immediately is going to turn off. What do you think the percentage of people are that are like instantaneously, they hear musical, they're like, I'm out.
I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is.
It's high. It's
Like
50% at
50%,
least. It's
maybe?
50% at least.
I think most people, yeah, they either like musicals or they don't. I don't feel
I
like
mean, isn't
there's
that how everything goes?
no, because sometimes people can be like lukewarm on things and like
I'm sure there's
neutral.
I'm sure there's
I don't
some people
know.
that are lukewarm on them.
You're probably right.
I'm not like
I don't know the
crazy
percentage.
about them, right?
The people that would be interested in a zombie musical, though, I think that's a pretty low amount of people,
Well,
probably.
sure, of course, because you're taking two genres of film that most people don't like and mashing them together,
Right.
right? And you're taking two wildly different, far like severely disconnected groups of people, right? Like the horror people and the musical people, they don't mesh,
Yeah.
right? Like that's two completely different groups of people. So yeah, I mean, you really are setting yourself up for not a ton of audience, right? When you take two genres that aren't really that beloved by the
Yeah.
masses,
Yeah.
that are so polar opposite from one another. Because yeah, I don't know a lot of horror fans that like musicals, and I don't know a lot of musical enthusiasts that are horror fans,
Right.
right? Like, so you're asking a lot right there just from the concept alone.
Yeah.
Now, is this the only musical horror movie? No, of course not. There's some for sure. I don't know if I've seen them all, but I feel like I've seen almost all of them.
Mm.
They're rare, and for good reason. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that because of what we just laid out, um, and also like with this, they do try to blend both, because this is very, very much a musical, and
Yes.
it's very like sweet and
Yeah.
endearing at times, and it's not really catering to like the horror fans all
Yeah.
that much. Um,
It's a very like 2017 type of musical as well.
hmm,
Like when I think
are we that
about,
far away from 2017 to be
I just
like,
mean that it
oh, this
feels
is
very
nostalgic
like,
for?
it feels kind of like a Disney Channel, but it okay, but I don't mean that in terms of like it's definitely an R film. Like there's gore and horror in it,
A lot of
and there's a lot
cussing,
of cussing, and then
yeah,
there's like some sexual like things, right? So it's
innuendos.
yeah, that part like it's but as far as like the music sound and like the dance sequences, they remind me of something I would see like in a Disney Channel like movie. I don't know. Maybe that's just
Sure, I
me
mean that.
because
I think that's fair.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
think if you compare it to something like Little Shop of Horrors, like that's not like this at all. Like Little Shop of Horrors feels more like theatrical, like stage musical. Same thing with Sweeney Todd a little bit ish, whereas this feels definitely like a movie musical. And when I think of movie musical, I often think of like Disney Channel, like kid show, movie musicals in that field.
this feels like it was put together by theater kids, though.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, there's definitely like I don't think you can get away from all the theater like influence for sure. But I do think that there's like a real distinction between how certain films feel as far
yeah,
as if they feel more theatrical versus more of like a film.
yeah. So we had been discussing musicals lately because we went and saw Wicked, um, and we also watched something else recently ish as well. But we got on the topic of musicals and what I like and what I don't like. And I guess if you were to get into my musical tastes when
Hmm.
it comes to like musical movies, I probably do fall somewhere in that camp of like, I I'm not lukewarm on them in the sense of like every musical I watch, I'm just kind of whatever on. I'm lukewarm on them because if you mix hot and cold evenly, you get lukewarm, right? So like there's tons of musicals that I've watched that I don't care for at all.
Yeah.
There's tons of musicals that I've watched that I love, right? I mean, my favorite film in the last decade is a musical, La
Yeah.
La Land, right? Like most people know that. So like I can be insanely high on a musical. But for me, it's usually it comes down to a couple factors, and one of them has to be, and because it's a musical, this would make sense. I have to vibe with the music.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna I've never been like a cool music person. I'm like a basic bitch when it comes to music, right? Like I'm a simple guy. Like with movies, I'm much more like refined, and like
Mm.
my palette
Yeah.
is much more refined in that way, to where I can see and appreciate all of the different varieties and subgroups and genres of film. But with music, you know, I really just like poppy, catchy, earworm type of
Mm.
music. I just do,
Yeah.
right? Like whenever I listen to, um, like musicians' music, like the ones that they're like,
Mm.
oh, you got to hear this. This is real music. Most of the time, it just sounds like noise to me.
Mm.
There's nothing, there's no melody to it.
You don't feel
There's
that way about
no.
like classical music though, because that's also, I mean, I know that's not what like every like music snob would be talking about, but there's no like vocals or anything or like instrumental like soundtracks. Like,
I mean, I don't. It depends, right? Like when I hear Mozart,
mm,
Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, stuff like that, I hear nothing but insane talent,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Am I going to listen to it of my own accord? Am I going to put it on the car when I'm driving? Absolutely not. I can appreciate it for what it is. It's incredible stuff for sure, and it's the basis for all the music that we listen to. But I prefer catchy, um, like chorus centric,
Mm.
repetitious, nursery rhyme type of
I think
music,
most people, I
like
mean,
Blink
yeah,
182 or
yeah,
stuff like that. Like I love that shit.
yeah, yeah.
It's simplistic. But
Well, no,
then again,
I don't know
I
if
got
it's,
really into Polyphia for a while.
yeah, they're very like
Um, and
abstract
there's
in
no
a way.
lyrics in there at
Yeah.
all, but I find the music to be
That's
so impressive.
Yeah, I think that's kind of closer to like a classical music almost really. It's
But
like modern
the thing
classical.
I was getting at with this is I really, really like the music in this. I think
Mm.
this is the strongest aspect of the film. The songs are very catchy. And you're right. I mean, I didn't think of it until you said it, but it does remind me of like a Disney Channel
Yeah,
movie, because
cuz
I watched the Descendants movies and the Zombies movies, the ones on Disney, with my kids, and the songs are super super catchy, and I like them. Like
yeah.
I like that kind of music for sure, and I really loved most of, if not every song in the film. I really really enjoyed the music in here because they're the kinds of songs I was humming them when I was in the kitchen right before we started
Yeah.
recording. No one gets a Hollywood ending, or
Yeah.
what is it?
Uh I don't
There's no
remember
such thing as a
no such
Hollywood
thing as a
ending.
Hollywood ending, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I like the music too. I think if this had been like a PG-13 movie, like it could have honestly could have easily been, I feel. Although I don't know, I guess
I
there are some,
prefer it to be
I
R for
prefer it to be R
sure.
too, but I'm just saying like the music alone would be something that I'd be like the kids could probably listen to it. I don't think there was
Absolutely.
anything like raunchy or bad in the music itself.
Except for the
For
Santa,
Oh
like
yeah, except for that one because that one's a very sexual. Even though there's no like, it's explicit, but it's like trying to pretend to not be explicit, which is very
Santa come and
funny.
empty your sack.
Yeah, because like you could be like, he's got a sack of presents, like that's the whole point, right? But for me, like with musicals, I really love a lot of musicals. I'm not nearly as picky about them as you are because I like the sound of like musicals, and I don't mind them being not like catchy. Like I know we talked about that recently with some of the Wicked songs, like not having that like like the pop sound
Yeah,
chorus type of thing.
it's fine.
Because like I definitely like was at a period in my life, especially when I was younger, as like a teenager, where I got really into like opera and classical music because
Hmm.
for me, um, I think it's all about the emotion behind it, and especially with musicals, like there's already like when you combine the lyrics and the actual sound and then also like the physical presence of like the actors and what whether it's a dance number or whatever is happening, I think all of that combined is really what wins me over. So, but with this one, even though it is like very catchy pop type of songs, I think it's all really fun. And weirdly, like there's some really good and unexpected like character deaths and just moments throughout, and especially at the end where there's the reprise with no such thing as a Hollywood ending. Like it's actually very sad and just not um, maybe not what you would be expecting from the film, because it does have a, like you had said, kind of a Shaun of the Dead type of vibe to it,
Yeah.
in terms of it being a bit of a goofy zombie film. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time there's some good like coming of age kinds of messages,
Hmm.
which I like a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Boom! I saved your life.
Yeah, really, and there's some good humor, really good humor.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
characters I think are all very memorable, and yeah, there's some really nice like comedic timing on things, and I think definitely, yeah, one of my favorite sequences is for sure the one where they're like walking out right as
With
the
their
zombie,
headphones on.
yeah, as the zombie
And that's
apocalypse
the
is
most
happening.
Shaun of the Dead thing
Yeah,
in the movie, right? It's almost identical to the scene where Shaun is
yeah.
walking to the convenience store or wherever he's going, and people are zombies around him, and he's like not even noticing because he's like too in his head about whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it made me really want to watch Shaun of the Dead. But also I think it's really funny because they're teenagers, and that's kind of the part of the gag is like teenagers can be so self-absorbed into their own little worlds that because it does feel like everything feels like this is literally my whole life and blah blah blah, and so you just like kind of don't pay attention to the rest of the people around you. So I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
Um,
So this is a Scottish film,
yeah,
and we here in the United States
I
on
could.
Tubi, we have the United States cut. Now I don't know what's different because the U.S. cut is 93 minutes, the UK cut is 98, so it's only about five
Mm.
minutes longer. But the festival cut, which they originally released, was 108 minutes,
Hmm.
which that's
Okay.
considerably different. 16 extra minutes is a lot more than you think. So that's I'm curious on what scenes are missing from this
Yeah.
and what that festival cut looks like. I don't know if there's a copy out there on a Blu-ray or something like a special feature, like an uncut version or whatever. But definitely let us know if you know of the cuts being available and if they're worth it to seek out. If you're a fan of this, is there an extra song or two? Is there
Hmm. More gore, more
more
kills.
scenes between certain characters
Yeah.
that adds a little more to them? I feel like the film is I don't know, like do I think this needs anything more? Not really. I feel like
Oh, it
everything
feels
is
very
fleshed
complete.
out and completed.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% what would be missing from this cut that would benefit the film. So I think I'm good with this cut, but I
Hmm.
am curious on them.
I
I
am
mean, I
too.
would I would like more than anything, I would like to see like a um deleted scenes on like YouTube or something where I can
Hmm.
just see the scenes detached from the film to just kind of see what I'm missing and then fill them in my head. I don't need to watch the entire film again with all of the scenes added in since this is so fresh. But I am curious on it, and yeah, I really like the characters. I think all of our main characters are very charming,
Yeah.
and I think their chemistry between each other are really good. I think this is a pretty well directed
Mm.
musical for uh, the budget that it
Hmm.
has. Another thing with musicals and why I prefer this over other things, and Kaylee knows this of me. I really don't like. I don't think I've ever liked a musical where every single word of the film is sung.
Mm.
Um, there's dialogue, and then there's singing, and I need them to be detached.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
fine because okay, the way I've seen musicals, and now this doesn't apply to every musical, I'm sure, but most musicals for me, the reason that the musical aspect works is because it's a fantastical version of the fantasies that are going on within, right? It's an overblown show of emotion.
mm,
It's them expressing their love, their hate, their anger, their so the emotions are so big you can't keep them in, and they become larger than life, and the world has to like adjust to fit the emotion of the character, right? So if in La La Land, when he's dreaming of his romance, um he can't help but let it out,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the world kind of shifts around his fantasy, right? It's the fantasy in his head, when Sebastian is thinking, he's just like he can't stop thinking about Mia, and it's I don't know, I love that it's the fantasy version of things. But all of the dialogue, all of the like in between, the getting to know each other, all that stuff is spoken. And that to me is important because it connects me to them as humans.
Mm,
And when I see those moments where they're human and then they break into song, I can adjust. But when everything's sung, it feels fake. It feels forced. I don't ever connect to them as people because that's just not how we ever are.
mm,
And it just there's that disconnect for me. I think
yeah.
that's if I've analyzed it enough, like when you showed me Les Miserables, like you were like, oh, not everything's sung.
I
Every word is
forgot.
sung. Every
Yeah.
fucking word. And when you're trying to do basic dialogue and you're singing it, it just feels corny to me.
Mm,
Like when you're
yeah.
like, I'll be right back. I'm going to the store. It's like, you can just say that. You can just say those lines. You don't have to sing those lines. It feels
Yeah.
fake.
I understand what you're saying. I don't agree because
That's
I
fine.
don't mind whenever
Yeah.
a musical is like almost all music. It does feel very like operatic, I guess, in that sense, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine with it. My only maybe like complaint would be that it can be hard to understand like what
Oh
people are
yeah.
saying for sure.
That
So
happened to me with Wicked.
I definitely understand that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
almost
There's
feel
some
like with
dialogue
musical
lost.
films, we should just have subtitles. I like subtitles in general, especially when people have accents or just, I don't know. I always miss words that people say and um, have a hard time like just hearing stuff. So, like, I always prefer subtitles, but I also hate it because sometimes subtitles will give you spoilers for things that are about to happen. So it can be frustrating. But yeah, this one definitely has very clear distinction between like, the songs and then the rest of the dialogue that's happening. So that's like if you're somebody who's like Jason who doesn't want them to be singing the entire time, then you have that. And it is quite funny when people just kind of break out into song. Like there's several times where people are singing like their song and nobody around them is like interacting at all, like it's just completely ignored that they're having this like really emotional outburst. But then there's other times when everybody starts dancing and everybody starts singing, and that's really fun. That's definitely one of the fun parts of musicals, is to just see this like alternate reality where we all like can just sing and dance really well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean this does it well. Wicked did it well as well.
I think Wicked does a
It does a great
fantastic
job
job at it.
of doing both.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the I'd say it's 50-50 almost. Half the dialogue is spoken and you get really good characterizations between Alphaba and Galinda.
Oh yeah, we could talk
And
a lot about
sure, but
Wicked, but
and there's been a lot of great musicals lately that I feel like got completely looked over, like Matilda the musical I really
oh sure,
enjoyed.
yeah,
And
we did like that. Yeah.
there's been a lot of cool musicals, but man, you can't get people to break away from their hatred of musicals,
It's weird. I do feel like there was a time for sure, especially in America cinema, where musicals were very
the
popular. I mean, the
40s.
40s, 50s, even the 60s. Like, there's so many fantastic musicals like made into film. But now, yeah, I do feel like it just seems like not many musicals are as popular anymore. I don't know if that's just like me not being in touch with like theater people anymore, but because also when I was in like high school, I feel like musicals were really popular, especially with like the theater kids, but maybe that's just because we were theater kids. I don't
Yeah.
know. It does seem like, I mean, like Wicked coming out because, and one thing I think too that's changed is that now a lot of our musicals are kids shows or kids films. They're like either the Disney movies or Pixar or like whatever. Like, you know what I
Mm.
mean? We get a lot of the musical stuff in children's stories, which I'm of course fine with. I think it makes a lot of sense. Kids love music,
I
and
mean, Disney's been doing that
but
forever,
Disney
though,
has been doing it
right?
forever, but
Like,
that just seems like way more common. Whereas, like we were saying in the 40s and 50s, like there's so many movie musicals that came out and or movie adaptations of musicals, I should say, that were already like on the stage.
but I would say
And
like half of the greatest musicals ever made are probably Disney movies, right? Like Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast or whatever. Like those are fucking phenomenal,
mm,
right? So like they do them very well as well. But I think you're right in the sense that a lot of people see them
it's like
as either
childish.
childish or just or like romantic.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's and those are like two things, especially like horror fans who are always trying to be like
sure.
hard and like I only like dark things.
Well,
Um
yeah, but as far as this goes as a zombie film,
yeah.
I think it actually is a fairly successful one.
Yeah, I would say that the place where the movie kind of fails, and um this is topical because of why we're doing this. It doesn't feel very Christmassy. And you know,
Yeah,
it is set on Christmas. She's like carrying around a candy cane that
yeah.
she's using as a
There's like
weapon.
a snowman
There
zombie and a
it starts with like Christmas music. There are Halloween. There's Christmas decorations here and there, but like if this film wasn't set on Christmas, it would make it no different almost at
I don't
all.
know. I mean, yes, you're right. You could get rid of those things, but I actually think that it feels fairly Christmassy. I mean, there's a whole song that's about Santa, and like the
See,
decorations are there the entire time. There's, I don't know. I think could it be more? Yes, for
it's
sure. It could be more Christmassy, but it's like
it's sort of
you're
there.
like, let's do musical, zombie, and Christmas, and that's a lot of things to like
I get it.
you know just do all at one time. But I do think it feels maybe I think I'm a little bit higher on the Christmas feel than you are.
But like if you okay, like the greatest Christmas musical of all fucking time,
Is
Muppets
Muppets a
Christmas
Christmas
Carol,
Carol? Yeah.
feels Christmas 1000% of the
But this
time.
is the thing with that because there's like no greater Christmas story or Christmas like horror story than a Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So it's like that is like the pinnacle of all. Like you can't beat it. And then just the music in the Muppets version is so fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to like review that on the channel because like
Nobody cares.
if you haven't watched it and you think like, oh, it's a kids movie, like I'm not going to watch it, you're missing out because it is legitimately one of the best adaptations of A Christmas Carol out there.
It is,
And
but
as
I
far
don't
as
know if
Christmas
you're gonna
horror
win them
goes,
over if they're like, it's a kids. It's definitely a kids
it is
movie,
a kids
but
movie, but
it's
it's
fantastic.
yeah, it's still fantastic. But yeah, I mean that one is insanely Christmas because I guess the difference is that that one really is honing in on what everybody has, kind of acknowledged as the spirit of Christmas, which
Yeah,
is, giving and caring about those who are less fortunate than you and showing your love and appreciation for people in your life. But this one is not about that. This one is about like wanting to get away from your family, wanting to do your own thing, and like again, like coming of age. So maybe that's where it's missing out because I think like the background stuff that's happening is all Christmassy,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like what the
It's not in the
characters are
foreground.
going through
Yeah,
does not feel Christmassy at all.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So I thought the Christmas spirit was Marley and Marley.
Marley and Marley. Woo!
Ooh.
Yeah, it's so good.
If we were to ever discuss that for any reason, we'd have to bring out our pop figures. We
Yes,
got
we
every one
have
of
them
them.
all.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, the opening has the dad harping on the daughter over, wanting to take a year to go out and explore and live her life before. This is something that angers me so much, but that parents do. that a kid doesn't want to go straight from 13 straight years of
Yeah,
schooling
to more
to more
schooling.
schooling. And
Yeah.
then once they get out of school, they go to work,
Yeah.
every week for the rest of their life. And it's like, hey, can I just take a break for like a year
Oh
and actually go
yeah.
live my life? And then parents are, oh, you're going to ruin your life and you're going to throw it all away.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are we such slaves to this idea of endless work? Like,
Oh, it's a
you just
horrible
have to fucking
mentality.
work or you're a lazy piece of shit. Like
Hmm.
that generation that's been taught that you need to break your soul and your body to basically,
To be worth anything, really.
well, it's not only just to be worth anything, but it's to make other people super fucking rich.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah, that's the other
you are
part
just
too.
like a peasant
Yeah.
who has nothing, and all you do is you're just another cog in the fucking wheel, and you make this world work for the elite.
Yeah.
That's really how this all functions. And unless you're one of them, which you ain't, because it's a very, very fucking small group of people and they ain't watching this channel, this whole notion of just like, the harder I work, this meritocracy kind of idea is pure fucking nonsense. Like, I don't know, just watching this dad getting so mad at his daughter and like almost disowning her, and like it creates this rift between them that only gets mended in some apocalyptic
Oh yeah, it only gets mended in like the
moment,
last few seconds of
and
his life,
literally as he's
basically.
dying.
Which sucks. I mean, like there's definitely some time they you can tell that they both feel bad that they fought. Um and they probably would still feel bad even if it wasn't the apocalypse happening. But like yeah, it does feel kind of like yeah, it's lame, and I think taking a gap year for kids and like for young adults really after they graduate high school, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. But
Not at all. I think
yeah,
everyone should. I think
oh
every
sure,
person should do that. As soon as
yeah,
they turn 18 and they graduate high school, I think we should start to make it,
like normalized to just
normalize
take a
it, dude,
break.
to take a year
Yeah,
and to go off. Now, parents don't have the money and all that. You have to get a job or whatever, for that year, and support your own way. Figure out whatever way. If you want to go backpack through Europe, then you need to figure out, you need to get a job. You need
well,
to be able to
and
pay for that plane ticket, and you need to
yeah,
be able to like get some kind of work as you're backpacking, or if you
but
have a
that's kind of
talent.
what she's doing though. Like she's
Yeah,
paying for her ticket and
which is
like
then fine.
yeah,
Have at it. You
so
should
yeah,
go live your
that's
life while you're young. And
it sucks that her dad and her have that kind of argument. It's definitely the part of the driving like force of the drama behind her character, with her feeling like conflicted about leaving because he makes her kind of question herself, and ultimately I think she's like gonna miss her friends too. But that's mostly the main thing because it's like very clear that she wants to go. Um,
that's what's led to this kind of shift, though, right? Like, if we look at the 20 something year olds now, a lot of them have moved to like van life
yeah.
and like tiny homes, and they're really rejecting this, consumer class ideology of like, i need to I need to own this and that. They're almost coming at it from the Tyler Durden
Mm,
perspective of like, the things you own end up owning you, and
mm.
they're really just kind of returning back to, being very, like,
Minimal and like simple.
minimalists.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're becoming minimalists, and
Yeah.
and
There's a
they're
lot of
they're like, you know
yeah.
what? I don't need to work as much, and this is true. I've lived this life. When Kaylee met me, I lived in a small trailer with my kids. I wasn't in a trailer park. I was actually parked up on like a
Like a
hill
hill.
in the
Yeah.
middle of this really beautiful area. And I got my water from a well, and I
Yeah.
got my electricity from the next door neighbor, which was like, down the way. We siphoned off of her line with her permission. And I really, I consumed nothing, and my rent was like $500 a month.
Mhm.
And with that lifestyle, I was able to save up a tremendous amount of
Oh,
money.
sure, yeah.
And I was able to, I really didn't buy much at that point. I wasn't really buying anything. And I just I felt so free, you
Yeah,
know.
unfortunately with things like, van life and stuff, because it's definitely something that I've like looked into because it is like a really appealing thing. Obviously not now because we have kids, but like as something in the future,
Do
I've
it for
thought
like
about
5
it.
years and save that
But
money, and
it's hard though because like when you look at those vans that are like
oh my god, they're so expensive.
they're expensive. It's
Yeah.
not as cheap as people like if you're truly just like living out of your car and you don't have it like, decked out with the shower
Yeah,
and the
those people are
kitchen and like
ridiculous.
but those are amazing. Like don't get me wrong, I look at those and I'm like that's beautiful. Like oh my god, that sounds so nice, but it's a very pricey thing to do. So it's like I think that kind of gives like a bad impression to some people that like aspire to that because like if you really want to do it frugally, like you're not going to be living like the Instagram or the
No, of
TikTok people
course
will
not.
make you think. Even the same thing with
Well,
trailers
everything on
too.
Instagram is
So
fake as
yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
You
So
can't ever look at Instagram like it's some kind of measure or benchmark of like reality.
no, definitely not, definitely not. Um,
But anyway,
anyway,
let's not get too off topic
yeah.
here. But
So
that's always what we do with
that's
this.
definitely her like again like I said her driving like the drama for her character and then like some of the side characters like we have a really cute couple.
Hmm.
They're very adorable, and it's really sad because they both get bit, and they
Hmm.
both turn.
But they turn together.
They turn together, which is like at least like a very bittersweet thing. And the main character, her best friend, is in love with her, of course, and he
And
has a horribly sad end.
yes, he does. It's super. It's God, this is one of those things as well. And it's like you can't help who you like. I get all of that, but humans are so deeply flawed. This is something that is not only just like endlessly done on loop in film, but endlessly done on loop in fucking life. The girls always seem to be interested in the, the dickhead
Yeah,
who is the bad boy or
right.
whatever, and then their best friend, the friend zoned guy, can't get her attention for any reason, and then he has to like listen to her cry every night about why isn't there any good guys.
Yeah.
This is this is like one of the more frustrating aspects, and I'm not saying that women don't deal with it too, or you know, gay people or whatever, but
It's
from my
definitely
own
it's
experience,
a trope at the very least, and it's a trend.
it's a trope in life, though.
But
It really
yeah.
does happen. I can attest to it. It is a real thing, and you get very, especially when you're in high school.
Mm,
Like I was the nice guy in high school, very much the nice guy in high school, and I couldn't get any girls to pay attention to me. And the dickheads would always get the chicks. And then the chicks would complain to you, like, oh my God, he's such an asshole. Like, why isn't any guy ever nice? And you're sitting there like, and they'd be like, you're such a good guy. I mean, I would never, ever, like, you're my brother. So, and you're like, and then, in my 20s, my early 20s, I legitimately got fed up with it and angry. And so I started treating girls like shit just purely out of anger, not in any attention, like to get them. And then that got me more girls, which then pissed me off more, which then got me more girls, which then pissed me off more. And it became this cycle. And it got me so jaded towards women for a long, long time. Like I legitimately basically hated women for a short, like for a period of time in my
mm,
early 20s because I could not get them to pay attention to me for any reason when I was nice, when I was a really cool guy. And then when I started to become a dickhead who didn't care about them at all, they
mm,
all wanted me. And then that made me go, fuck them. I want nothing to do with them. And I wouldn't date because of it. And then I grew up and I matured and I was like, no, that's girls that are like that. When you meet a woman, she's not going to be like that. And it took me a long time, but finally I found the right one. But regardless, yeah, it's seeing that trope in these movies. It is tropey, but it is unfortunately very true to life.
It's sad though because he, kind of confesses to her or starts to at the very least, and she just shuts him down really fast.
Oh yeah,
Like, you're
you're
my
my
best
best
friend.
friend.
And then he gets bit and he
Yeah,
ends up like sacrificing himself for her.
yeah.
And she doesn't, at least at this one, she doesn't end up with this like asshole guy that ends up kind of joining them.
You sure?
They don't end up together, but they do survive together.
They drive
Three
off
people
together.
survive. But she like very clearly tells her dad like he's not my boyfriend. Does that mean that they're not going to be a thing? Maybe not, but at least at the end of this, I don't think that there is any intention for it. But at the same
I feel
time,
like they
like
end up
he might have
together.
had a change of heart too, because it's like we find out that he had to kill his dad, which is
Yeah,
really messed up.
yeah.
And like she confronts him and is like, I told you like all my dreams and stuff. Like we
Mhm.
had all these plans and then you broke up with me or whatever. So it's possible that he can, maybe change his ways and be a better person for her, especially now that the zombie apocalypse is happening. Um, anyway, I don't know. I really like his song though. I think that
Oh yeah,
his like dance number with like his buddies when they're like killing zombies is really funny
yeah.
and very very fun. It's so ridiculous and so like unnecessarily macho. Um, so that, yeah, I think that's a good one. And then the other person that survives is the like journalist girl whose parents have like gone off to Mexico and whose girlfriend like wasn't answering her calls for Christmas and stuff. um and she ends up surviving and is the one that kind of like rescues the other two at the very very end.
Yeah, she's
So
also like, a fish out of water.
yeah, she's
She's
American,
American,
which I
and
didn't
her
realize
parents
at
kind
first.
of drop her off in Scotland and then disappear to Mexico.
Yeah.
And then her parents aren't around. Her girlfriend is like not talking to her. So, and then at school, she's the awkward girl. And so, like, she feels so out of place. I mean, talk about out of place.
Oh yeah, I can only
Um,
imagine how awful that would feel.
yeah,
So
I
I
would
like
have
her
liked I
character.
would have liked to see more from her character.
Hmm.
Like, I don't feel like we get much of an arc to her.
Hmm.
I feel like she's kind of the same person she is in the beginning as she is in the end, and I don't feel like we really get any resolution with any of her story. Like, she doesn't get in contact with her girlfriend.
Right.
She doesn't, like, confront her parents. She doesn't have a moment where she realizes, like, hey, I'm not that lame or whatever. She
Yeah.
doesn't feel any self-worth, or she saves their life and has a funny moment, like where she says the boom, I saved your life thing, which
Yeah.
is a great moment, but it doesn't really do anything for her character. It's not like she's someone who's like, I always run away from my
Sure.
problems,
Yeah.
and then in the end she's the one who comes through, or something, where you
Yeah.
have that moment where you see some change, like ultimate change in her. So she doesn't really go anywhere, unfortunately. um yeah, little, and then we also have our antagonist, because in zombie
Yes.
movies,
Yeah.
it's never the zombies, it's
Yeah.
it's other people, right? So with this, we got the headmaster, not
I
principals.
know. Yeah.
Over in the United Kingdom, they like their headmasters, Dumbledore and whatnot.
Yeah, he's a total asshole and very funny though. Very like ridiculously evil for
Yeah,
no reason.
yeah.
um just horrible. Like he ends up killing a bunch of the parents that are like sheltered at the school because they want to leave and they're not listening to him, and
He's all
he's got
about
like some
control.
power
Yeah,
like
power trip. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And he's got a really funny song as well when he's just like when he breaks and is finally like I'm the one in charge.
Yeah.
Very funny. Yeah,
It's
and
funny when the cute little girl on stage with the Santa song, when she's doing her sexual number. At first, I it I thought he was into her. The way he was
oh,
reacting to it, I was like, oh, he's perving out on one of his students, and then it
mm,
was like he was like, I hate this,
no.
but it's almost
He
like
was
maybe he was into her for a second,
no.
and that's what got him pissed off.
He was excited, I think, because of how like talented she was.
Mm,
So he was like, okay, because the ones right before it are the really funny like penguins and
I
the
was gonna
fish
mention
song.
it's my favorite song.
Yeah,
It's
very
so
punny.
funny.
So I think, and he was like really disappointed in them. It was just like, oh my god, these kids are horrible. And so then when she comes out, I think he's like, oh, like she's talented and she's gonna do something good. And then it turns out to be much more sexualized because she's really doing that for her boyfriend who's missing it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's not really doing it for anybody else. But like, there's all these like shirtless like kids that come out on stage and it's like just wildly inappropriate for a high
Wildly.
schooler.
Yeah.
And the audience is really funny there too because like some of the guy like most of the guys you see in the audience are like uncomfortable and they're just like what's happening because they're all like parents of the children.
Sure.
Some of them are like kind of happy and then there's also like this grandmother of her boyfriend who's like so supportive and just keeps like giving her the thumbs up. But then at the end, like guys and women, like because the women also look very like disapproving of it, like when you're like flashing through the audience, but then at the end like a bunch of people like stand up and applaud, and like so she has more of a like a good reaction, I guess, at the end because they're like she sings well.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. I've definitely broken into song quite often in our life
Yeah.
with my favorite dish is fish, mother
Oh
flipper.
yeah.
I've said that. I've probably sang that song to Kaylee
A
100
lot.
times.
A lot.
I
It's
just
very funny.
it just came. It's so out of nowhere. Like the first time I saw it, I wasn't expecting it at all,
Yeah.
and it was penguins singing it, and all the puns in
They're
it.
not even
Just
singing it. They're just
it just
dancing.
I know,
But
but
that's
it
what's
just
really funny is that
it got me
it's like a
so good.
track over their really awful dancing.
It got me really good.
Yeah.
And it's just stuck in my head. And I've played it in the car tons of times because I just really find it funny. And you know, I don't I did review this when it came out. It was one of the earlier reviews I ever did, and I don't think I gave the movie credit for its music back then,
Hmm.
but I really, really liked it, all the songs this time around. So
Oh good, yeah. I do
um
too.
I yeah, they sleep in the ball pit under the balls.
Yeah.
I don't could I mean, yeah, there's air there, but like sleeping in a ball
It
pit under
sounds so
balls
uncomfortable,
sounds
but
awful.
it's also like the zombie apocalypse, so I guess you're kind of
Well,
like
you're supposed to be camouflaged, right? Like
yeah,
that's the idea.
right.
They don't say it or show it.
No, but
Maybe
it's
that's
supposed
in
to
a
be like
deleted
that
scene.
they're like hidden. Yeah.
But
Um
dude, what? No
I know, it would be
ways.
so uncomfortable.
And the like it's kind of crazy to me that ball pits were I know they kind of still exist, but they used to be a big thing
Oh
in like
yeah.
kids places.
Yeah.
It's like one of the more unsanitary, most disgusting things we possibly could
I
do.
loved the ball pit though.
They're
I
so
wouldn't
cool,
sleep
but
in it, but
ugh,
like the idea of like just diving
kids are
in,
so dirty
so
and their
nasty,
hands are over
so
everything.
gross.
Oh, those balls are so gross.
I mean, like some parents do a good job of trying to keep their kids clean, but like other parents are just like kind of fucking whatever on you.
They're like get in there
Um,
and bathe,
yeah.
bathe in the balls.
I do hope that if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, the zombies are like these zombies because these are the manageable kind.
Yeah,
They're not the 28 days later, World
no,
War Z, like
no.
crazy ones that you're like, I'm just gonna die.
I
Like I
would
have
never get bit by these. I
no.
could fuck
I
every one
would
of these up, no
wear a
problem.
suit. You could just put on like a suit,
Yeah,
like put on like some protective
yeah.
gear and just go around and just like wipe a bunch of them out.
Oh,
And
100%.
then you could set up a little like, a base.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could totally
This would be
like
easy to
this you
survive.
would be able to live through.
But yeah, if I'm in 28 days later, you know, The Last of
Oh
Us, any of
god.
that
Those are
stuff,
terrifying.
fucking
Those are
forget
like
it.
you need
Hell
oh,
no.
I don't know what you
Especially
need.
in like The Last of Us
The
where
Last of Us
the
is
video game, right? Where
yes.
the spores are
Oh
a
my
thing, and if you
gosh.
fall into an area, if you go into an area and there's too much of a concentration of spores that you breathe in, or like in 28 Days Later, this is that's one of the only franchises that really does it accurate because the guy gets a little drip of blood in his
Yes.
eye and it
Yeah, where it's
changes him,
any
and I'm
kind of
like,
like
oh
body.
man,
Yeah.
that's something they never do in zombie
Have they
films.
done a I guess cuz The Last of Us is the closest thing to this because you inhale the spores, but like because a lot of zombie films are based on like some illness that, mutates or whatever. But like Airborne where it's like if they breathe around you.
Dude,
I mean,
that I
that would
mean
wipe out like everyone.
that's
That's
instant.
like that was one of
Like,
the
what are
problems
you gonna
with
do?
COVID, right? Is like it just airborne illnesses move so quickly.
They do, but when death rate is high, they don't move very quick
That's true.
because it can't
Yeah,
spread.
the virus has to be smart.
Yeah, it can't kill its host too
Yeah.
quickly, otherwise it can't spread.
I hope there's never
Anyway,
zombies, though. I really do not want them because I think it's a terrifying concept for many, many reasons.
yeah.
So,
Also, the snow in this movie is insanely fake.
oh yeah.
Anyway, that's that. We talked on this movie for probably 3 times longer than I expected to. We went on every kind of journey we could have.
We did. The takeaways are watch
Muppets
Wicked, watch Muppets Christmas
Muppets
Carol
Christmas Carol
first. See Wicked if you haven't. Watch Muppets Christmas Carol again.
Let your kids take a gap year.
Yeah, thank us for telling you to watch Muppets Christmas Carol. And
you're really stuck on the Muppets Christmas Carol. You keep
probably
coming back
don't
to all you keep
buy
saying.
a van to live in van life.
Oh no, I support van life.
Unless
Just Just understand what you're getting yourself into,
Okay.
and do it for as long as you can, or as long as you want.
Yeah.
But they're making it harder and harder. Anyway, let's not get off on some other tangent for another 20 minutes. But look into things before you do them.
Yeah.
Research them. Anyway, that's
That's
that.
that.
We'll see you in the comments. My
Bye.
favorite dish is fish, mother flipper, and I eat it for the hell of it.
It's the halibut.
No, the halibut's after.
Oh.